REAL is an acronym, right? It's relevant, experiential, authentic leaders is what REAL stands for. And if you're going to step into a coaching space, you need to be a real coach. You need to be relevant. You need to be experiential. You need to be authentic. And you need to be a leader.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. And we have another incredible guest for you today. We're very excited to have with us Adam Roach. He is an entrepreneur, the founder of the I Love Coaching Company, and he has a great history of owning real estate franchises, market centers for Keller Williams, starting up several different companies, and he happens to be a neighbor of mine here in the Charleston area. Adam, welcome to the show, man. Happy that you're joining us today.
Matt, thank you, Garrett. Excited to be here. I've listened to the show. I've watched you guys. I'm excited to be here. This is gonna be fun.
So, how did Matt meet you? Did he just pick you up off the corner? Like he's a neighbor? Like what? How did you guys?
Gosh, I can't remember. I think it had to do something with my toes. Had something to do with my toes on that one side. I can't really remember. Gosh, I think that was it. Yeah.
Feet pictures are getting more popular these days.
Well, Adam, I'm so excited to have you on, man. We've had a chance to meet in the past, and I love what you're doing and what you're about. I'm excited to dive deeper into it today, and because you have followed a passion of mine, which is coaching. Like you've been doing this for a long time, and so. Do you want to just give a brief little intro into what I Love Coaching Co. is, just so people understand, so we have a little bit of background around that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So coaching's been in my life, my entire life, right? So my father was an Olympic swim coach. I played collegiate tennis. I was a pseudo-professional tennis player. Not what you see on TV. I found out real quick that I was an American, not a European, was getting my butt kicked in what we called the futures and the challengers. So that business was done really quick. Though I've been in coaching my entire life, I honestly can't remember not having a coach anywhere in my world, whether that was health, relationships, business, money, my insides as it relates to truly my spirituality. So coaching's been in my world my entire life. And the I Love Coaching company and community came about in 2019 when I was exiting my real estate franchises.
Well, I love that you've gone down this route of having coaching in your world as much as you have, and really where what I see your passion is now is helping coaches be the best coaches they can be, and that's how we met. We were talking about as we're growing our venture here and kind of like looking down these routes. That's how you came into my world. But as Matt was saying earlier, as we were getting you also have a big real estate background too. Do you want to kind of elaborate a little bit on what your real estate background is?
Yeah. So, big is such a relative word these days. Well, what does big mean? Well, big in my world was an accident, right? It was truly an accident. So I was a tennis player, and then I got into the tennis business in SoCal, and myself and two other guys owned what was called the concession rights from the city of Beverly Hills to all their public tennis courts. And that was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then I met a friend on the beach, and he happened to be a lender. And he said, "Hey, you should get into real estate." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that means." And I said, "I'm a tennis pro. We have this little tennis thing going on right now. I make cash. I don't really claim a lot of the cash. So Uncle Sam thinks I'm poor. And how am I going to go get a loan?" Right? And I said, "Not to mention I'm in Beverly Hills." He's like, "Don't worry about it. They're called stated loan programs, and we'll give you 100% of all the money." I was like, "Yeah, I still don't even know what that means." And he said, "Just go find a house and I'll put you set up." Long story short, I wound up buying a house in my early mid-20s. And then that same dude was like, "You should sell that house." I was like, "You are confusing me. I played tennis. My parents have lived in the same house for 35 years. Why? I've lived in this house for like 9 months. Why should I sell it?" He said, "It's called real estate. You could probably make some money." So I wound up selling the house about 15 months into owning it, made about $90,000. And I thought,
you're hooked. You're like,
I was hooked, and that was it.
And
then I started flipping homes, started investing in homes. One of my tennis business partners, who was actually in the real estate business as a broker, had just moved his license from Coldwell Banker in Beverly Hills to Keller Williams in Beverly Hills. And he hands me this book, and the book was what's called the MREA book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And I love to read. Books all around me. Actually, it's probably right. Yep, there it is, right there on the top of the shelf.
Yeah, it's a red book.
I can probably find it behind me here.
Yep. And he's like, "I want to do," and now I have pretty much the book memorized because that's what I had to do when I was. Yep, there it is. Exactly. That's an old one too. And he said, I want to do what's on page 202. I want to build an organization. I want to build a business. Okay, fine. He said, I want you to do it with me because I've seen what you've done with our tennis club. I've seen what you've done in real estate. Come into my team and let's do it. It's okay. We called myself the trash man, right? Because I literally did everything on the team, even take out the trash. I was the assistant. I was a buyer's agent. I was a listing agent. I was the admin. I was the accountability person. But what was really cool about that was I got to learn real estate from the brokerage side. And it just so happened that I used to teach tennis to what was called the team leader inside the Keller Williams organization. I used to teach him tennis. His name is Rob. And I said, Rob, we were on the court one day hitting some balls. And I said, you know what? I can do what you do. You're in front of the room. You're just hyping everybody up. You're bringing some value. And I don't know anything about owning franchises, but why don't you school me up? Let's do some bartering here. I'll teach you tennis for free. You school me up on the world of franchises. And we did that for about 6 months. And then I said, okay, I want to do what you do. And he said, well, I'll find you a role. He found me a role in Indiana. So I left California, went to cornfields of Indiana and was a team leader. And then from there, was only there 2 years because I just did not like that vibe. Great Midwestern vibe. I'm from Indiana originally, but I left Indiana for a reason and then went down to Charleston, bought into a franchise, grew it, bought another franchise, grew it, bought another franchise, grew it, and literally just took off from there. So by 2019, I had 3 franchises. We were doing about $2 billion in sales. If you're familiar with the Keller Williams world, profit share wise, we were giving back over $1 million in profit share, which is super cool. And then my coach, my father passed, and that's when I had a real beach chair moment. And that was for another story, but I can go into that if you want to. But that's how big came about in my real estate world.
Wow, I love it. And Matt, before I let you jump in, I just wanted to mention one thing. The faith that you took in sitting there and saying, I can do what you do, teach me, starting that relationship, but then being able to pick up from the world that you knew in California, move back to Indiana on this faith of like, I'm doing what you told me to do. Like that is about as coachable as you can get, to be open to, okay, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to take everything you got. I trust you, and I'm going to do everything you say. Like that's about as coachable as you can get. So well done, Adam.
Thank you. Well, you know what's interesting looking back on it now is making that transition. I was more focused on what the vision was than I was with my ego, right? My ego said, don't leave SoCal. SoCal is beautiful. There's beautiful weather. There's beautiful women. There's beautiful cars. There's a lot of money. And life is good. But I thought this isn't really the life that I want to have, because my vision was more building businesses, building assets that I could then exit, right? So everything in my mind has always been of enterprise value, how to build something with enterprise value and then exit it. And so that was just the stepping stone that I knew I could take.
Very cool.
So you get into the real estate world, right? Now you're a franchise owner and everything. And I want to just play here just for a moment, since most of our audience are people who are in the real estate space. You know, what are the things that you saw, if you take like your experience, because you just skipped right over real estate agent, basically. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do that kind of for a year or so, and I'm just going to go right to owning, you know, but then you coached real estate agents, right? You spent a lot of time in that space and helping build these profit centers. I mean, they didn't build themselves, right? You were able to coach and train up real estate agents. So what were kind of a few of the characteristics that you saw in helping real estate agents see a bigger vision for themselves so that they could grow their own individual businesses, which obviously contributed to the ability to be paying out $1 million in profit sharing among all the people who are affiliated with your franchises?
The way that I looked at it was, I like the one-to-many approach, right? I believe that a one-to-many approach can knock down way more dominoes than a one-to-one approach. And what I mean by that is I did weigh the factors of just stepping into general brokerage, stepping into general sales, right? My background in the tennis business in Beverly Hills for 10 years literally built one of the best databases any realtor could want. I mean, I used to teach this senior group. Our average age in this class was 82 years old every Wednesday from 9 to 11 at our club. And I taught them for nearly 8 years. So that database right there was probably worth at least, gosh, I don't know, 100+ sales. I mean, because of all the people that had been in it and all the people that they would know, which probably was about $1 million worth. But the way that I looked at when I watched Rob, and then I looked at and really got to understand when he was coaching me up on the numbers of business, it was a one-to-many approach, right? So I could go sell a house. If I built a team, I could go sell 2 houses. If I built a bigger team, I could go sell 3 houses and me not have anything to do with the other 2. But when I looked at owning a business, I thought, gosh, if I have 10 agents and I don't have to sell a house, I can sell 10 houses and not have to sell a house. And so when I started buying these franchises, specifically the one in Charleston, when I took it over in 2013, we had about 115 agents. And then I looked at the size of the pond in Charleston of the number of agents. And I thought, okay, if I could do some simple math in the recruiting space and get this to a certain number, which I knew what the number was, I could print $1 million, right? And not have anything to do with the real estate world. So go back to the MREA book. When I was sitting with Rob, I was like, okay, if I go lead these offices, what is the one book? What is the one topic I should know? And he said, the MREA book. He said, here's what I would challenge you to do. Go read it as many times you can in 6 months. I read it 10 times in 6 months. And so when I got to my first office, I was able to sit down with Matt. I was able to sit down with Garrett and ask them questions then based on the knowledge I had gained from that book, specific to the 4 models. And they're like, wow, you know what you're talking about. It's like, I only know from the book. You could read it too, but I'll just ask the questions.
Well, you know what's really interesting, Adam, is like I'm looking at our real estate industry right now, and I've been doing a lot of studies about General Joe out there, who is basically consumer in the real estate market right now. And what they want is they want somebody that understands a deeper. They want a deeper knowledge of what's going on. They don't want somebody that's just the superficial. I got my real estate license, okay, so I can help you buy and sell a house because I got my license. I'm good. And what you did, and what I encourage a lot of people to do, is you dove in deep to educate yourself on what real estate is. And I am finding that is so attractive to the general consumer. They don't even realize it. It's not like you're putting it on as a show and general consumers going like, oh, like I guess I should like this guy because he's got all this stuff. You show up knowledgeable and they go, I want to be around that guy when it comes to real estate more. It just grows on it. So good for you for one, taking that education up front. And sometimes it's as simple as a book like that and just saying, just take it in and read it 10 times and absorb it. And if you've got a solid platform where you can show confidence, it's very attractive out there to the general consumer.
I think too, what you offered people, Adam, is a system, right? You took something and like, yeah, you could go read this book. Sure. Anybody could read any book. I spent an hour this morning answering emails that were backlogged from when I was away on vacation of people who were replying to an initial email. And most of what people were saying was, I don't have a system for X, Y, or Z, right? And it's like, well, you could go get a system, but a lot of people are looking for that guidance. And so what I love about this, to kind of bring it back to you being coached up your entire youth to then basically kind of falling into coaching by accident in a way through real estate by somebody saying, hey, read this book as many times, and then you just go give it to other people. And so you gave people a system, which is probably a big reason why the agents that then came and joined your offices did well, because hey, here's do the system, do this, and you're going to see success. Be consistent, build a record. And so, is that something you would attribute to the success of the individual agents that then were part of your organization?
Well, if we go back to the word system, right? Everyone, it has been a buzzword in our industry of real estate for as long as I can remember. Though, if you look at real estate as a whole, it is the lowest barrier to entry of any business ownership out there, right? Every state's going to be a little bit different, but let's just roughly say it costs $3,000 to get a real estate license in school. Now, again, every state or every situation or MLS is going to be a little bit different, but in Charleston specifically, $3,000 gives you this license, and now you have access to over a $15 billion industry, where no agent in Charleston has 1% of the marketplace, right? So if you look at the word system, the acronym, Matt, that you and I know is save yourself time, energy, and money, right? Save yourself time, energy, and money. But those people that get into business are wingers, right? until they understand systems, until they go get coached up, they're just going to wing it because they're going to hopefully rely on their next door neighbor's best friend daughter that wants to buy a house. They won't last. They won't last. So yeah, Matt, to your point, I started to build systems inside of our office that went like this. I recruited a team leader from Houston, Texas, and I got my hand slapped because I wasn't supposed to do that, but she was talented and I wanted her in my world. So I recruited her. And she came in and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to recruit, you're going to be what's called my productivity coach. And I want you to run it like you would a Keller Williams Market Center. Okay. So I want you to know all the numbers. I want you to know everything, but I'm going to feed you the agents. So I'm going to build a system over here that recruits relative newbies, and you're going to get them into production following a simple path, a simple plan. Okay. That's it. And we're going to set standards and expectations that if they can't write a contract in 90 days based on your training, they get a 30-day probation period. If they can't write a contract within 120 days, out they go. Right? We don't want them. So there was a higher level of standards and expectations in our office, which literally took us from, about $150,000 in profit in 2013 to nearly $1 million in profit by 2019, because we put those simple little systems in place to get people into production. If you couldn't get in production, it's fine. No high five to you because out you went. And I wasn't attached to the outcome. I was attached to your production outcome, but not the outcome of losing you.
It's incredible.
Well, it's interesting. So like you have your model that you followed, and obviously we have our, I have my background that I've come from for 20 years, but I've always said to people, it's like, all these systems work. They all work really well. I don't care who you're following. If you follow a Ferry background, a Buffini background, a Ninja background, Gary Keller's background, you start putting all this together and say, you just got to pick something and be consistent with it. And you got to show up, and and it needs to feel good to you. And all these different systems appeal to these different personalities, where it's like, if that system feels good, go. Let's go in all the way on it and show up 100% for it. And guess what? It's going to work. It's proven. And I think that's what I love is you found your system that worked well for you, that you could buy into, but then also help other people understand what that is. And I would want to encourage anybody who's listening to this, like, I don't think there is the number one, this is the only way to do it. There's a lot of great real estate models and systems out here. And when you find that one that feels good for you, if you go all in on it, learn it, and then do it 100%, it's one of those kind of, you're going to do well. You're going to be okay in this world.
It's 100% true. Though here's what we know. People don't reach a level of mastery because they get bored, right? And they get bored. What causes them to get bored? Their ego gets bored. Right? Their ego gets bored because they reach a certain level. And they're like, oh gosh, that was easy. Let's go do it again. The hardest agent to recruit ever that I had was about a $3 to $4 million producer, because they knew it all. Gosh, they knew, I don't need you. I don't need your systems. I don't need your help. Look at my track record. I've done 15 deals. I don't need your help. And then I look at them again the next year. Now they're doing 12 deals. Look at them again the next year. Maybe 11 deals. Right. And so it's those agents, if they can get over their ego and find a simple little path and then continually stay down that path until they reach a level of mastery where it is an unconscious competence that they don't even have to think about doing something, and they're doing it, they'll then learn from somebody else how to scale. Right.
Yeah. Sometimes a growth mindset can cause you can get into a complacent place where it's just like, well, why do I need you? I'm making things work. This is pretty good. Like, I'm doing pretty well. And they kind of look around at their peers and they're like, well, John's over there. I'm doing pretty good next to John. And it's like, no, but like, where do you want to go? And sometimes it's hard to get people to look just beyond that place of comfort a little bit. So always fun though when somebody comes to you and says, I'm ready. I can see it. I want to go. And will you help me? And it's like, come, like, let's go do this.
Here's what's interesting to that point is, if your listeners are listening right now and you're in a real estate company that is growing, you're in a real estate brokerage that is a recruiting-based brokerage, and you don't like it, right? Because there's too many people. There's whatever your reason is for not liking it. I had many of those, right? And what I did is I put next to the bathrooms, did this intentionally, next to the bathrooms, I put this white wall up there, it was called I can't remember what the paint was called, but it was something we painted on the wall. And I didn't put, the top 10. I put, where do you rank? Right. And we had individuals, we had teams. And I would intentionally look at that board and I would see where my top individuals were and where my top teams were. And I would intentionally go recruit to push those people down. Right. I wanted to push those people down so they would look at the board and say, holy shit, they just brought in Matt. They just brought in Garrett. I was number 1, but now I'm number 3.
Just keep
and they'd come to me and they'd
bar.
complain. They'd come into me and they'd complain. And I'd say, well, don't complain to me. You got to get back up to number 1. And they would work harder. Same thing on the team side. I would literally I would look at our teams and I'd pull up numbers from other brokerages. And what most recruiters do, because they have a little insecurity in recruiting space, is start from the bottom up. And I went from the top down. Right. And what I did that intentionally because I know that the top people, I had a coach teach me this one time in the recruiting space. Adam, always ask the pretty girl to prom because no one's asking her. Right. And so to me, I just went right to the top and said, you're probably intimidating to most people, but I'm going to give you a call. Right. And so I would do that relentlessly until they would finally take my call. And that was part of my system. Right. I had this mindset that, Matt, I would stop following up with you only if you died. Right. And then I had this funny thing that I would say, I collect restraining orders. And it worked. And it definitely worked.
Adam, what you did also, which is really interesting, is so many brokerages owners focus on the lowest common denominator, saying, how can I get these guys to produce? How can I get them to show up? And instead of pushing the top to raise their bar, they more so go to the top people in their office and they go, hey, will you show up at the office meeting so my new recruits will show up? Because we got to raise the morale of the entire office. Let's get everybody going here. And what you did is you literally said, look, if you guys aren't performing, you can go away. I'm going to continue to raise the bar for these guys up on top here, which makes them all grow, which it's funny. There's a lot of people that go but don't you want to help these people down here? But the same point is you are helping them by raising the bar up on top and making everybody go, okay, we need to step up and be better. What a great takeaway.
People come to your office, people come to your company. Let's just say company, right? You don't have to say real estate here, based on 2 things that I have found: environment and culture. And if you throw in training into that environment, now they will come, they will follow, they will stay if they have success. Yep. Never hardly is about money.
We talk about this a lot, the culture of companies and also the environment that people place themselves in physically and mentally, particularly in an industry like real estate, where, sometimes people do feel like they're on their own. And as a brokerage, you have an opportunity to not let people feel like they're on their own and create that incredible culture. And it sounds like you definitely did it with your franchises. And I love always ask the pretty girl to prom, because a lot of real estate agents out there are like, gosh, how do I level up my database? How do I do this? Maybe I can just go, I don't know, I'm a little shy. I don't want to do this. Go out and talk to those people, build those relationships that you're hesitant on building because they're going to accelerate you. So Adam, you take it to 2019, you've been in these franchises for many years, you have a life-changing moment, and then you have this moment with yourself, that you now call your beach chair moment. Tell us a bit about that and how that has kind of changed your direction now from 2019 to where we are today.
So I'll throw in there just a little bit into the story still. So it's 2014 and we're having a great time of growth. But I didn't have a real recruiting system, right? I needed a system. And that's just kind of how my brain works. I need to see flow. I need to see process. And I used to literally put on my window in my office. So I moved my office to the front conference room, which had all these windows, right? And it was like, we call it the fishbowl. And I did that intentionally so people could see me work. Right? I didn't want to be behind a closed door. I loved to have my door closed, but everything was glass. And so I really had only one wall space over here. So on my windows, I created a system for recruiting and I used sticky notes. And I would say, okay, here's the person I called, here's the person I had a conversation with, appointment set, appointment held, and joined, right? And I had all these sticky notes up there and it would work beautifully. I would just move them and move them back. And that was just my system. Until a cleaning lady came in one time and it was big red letters, don't touch this. Because it didn't say on the sticky note where they were. It just said it on the header where they were. And someone moved some stuff. Actually, they moved the whole thing.
Devastating
And
moment.
I was just like, there was probably at least 300 names up there, right? And I was just floored. So I thought, okay, God's telling me I need to create something that is probably more digital. So I had a buddy of mine in California who had crashed one of my cars, and I took the fall for it. He was a developer, and so I said, "Hey, I got an idea. I got this sticky note system. Can you build it electronically?" He's like, "Sure. Let me see what I can do." So within a few months, he had built this whole thing, and we called it Recruiting Bridge, and it was just for me. And so I started using it, and success literally just started taking off. Right, it became easier to do what I was doing, more efficient, more effective. And then other team leaders started to see it. And by 2000, probably 15, 16 and a half, it was in 91% of all of Keller Williams offices. And we had a SaaS model basically, and we had a subscription model to it. And it was printing money, which was so stupid cool. And we could associate almost 80,000 agents joining Keller Williams through the system. And that year, I was basically Keller Williams' #1 recruiter in 2016, and life was great, right? Fast forward to 2019, I own 3 franchises. We have Recruiting Bridge still running at a really high level. I'm a coach inside of Keller Williams MAPS organization. And my father, who had been my coach of all things, was dying from Parkinson's related issues. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go be with him as long as I can. Right. So I told all my partners, I told my teams, I said, listen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be gone for an extended period of time, and I'll be accessible. But if you need something, we'll create a system, and this is how the whole thing will work. Great. So I had 4 months. I got to spend 4 months with him. He was bedridden, and every morning wake up, we had a little routine. I'd set my phone up on the shelf next to his bed and push record and just sit there and talk to him. Just engage, ask him questions, right? And of course, in typical Bill Roach fashion, he passed on Easter, knowing that that's the biggest celebration up in heaven, right? And so I came back to Charleston and I sat in a beach chair, sat there for 4 days, not in a row. Well, in a row, but I did go home and sleep. And I took a journal with me. I took a speaker with me and a big thing of water and sunscreen for my bald head. And I just sat there and just prayed and journaled, cried, drank water, reapplied sunscreen. And I just did that over and over and over. And whatever thoughts and feelings, I call them whispers, come to my head, I would just write it down. And then I'd pray out loud. It's like, God, where am I to be going right now? What should I be doing right now? And on the 4th day, I heard 2 things: who you surround yourself with matters at the highest level, and 100 million. I didn't know what either one of those meant. And so I came back to reality, and I thought, okay, let me audit everyone that's in my world right now. Everyone. And I realized I was looking for value, right? I was looking for who, what, where, when, and how. What was next for me? I was having fun in these market centers. We were printing money, which was great. But the who's in those worlds were not my who's. I had inherited some of these people, right? And I was the majority owner of all these franchises. And so I journaled and I prayed about it. And I actually had some conversation with some people that I respected at a high level. And I said, I think I'm being called to sell these things. And they're like, why would you do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm feeling that. I don't want to be around these people anymore. If my father dies in his 60s and the only reason why he found out he had Parkinson's because he was training for a triathlon, an Ironman actually, and his times were getting slower, and he called me and said, hey, Adam, my times are getting slower. I was like, Dad, you're getting older. He's like, no, something's not right. Goes to the doctor. Doctor says you're dragging your left foot because you have Parkinson's. He's like, well, holy shit. And if he dies in his 60s, at the time I'm in my 40s, I'm like, shit, I only got 20 years left. Right. And so I was like, convicted, done. Walked into each one of those franchises, investor meetings. I was like, guys, today's an easy conversation for me. It might not be for you, but one or two things are going to happen. Either I'm buying you all out or you're buying me out. You guys decide, by the way. I'm going to leave this in your hands because I've made my decision. They're like, well, why would you do that? There's no reason for an answer. I just decided this. So go. So they all decided to buy me out, which was such a big blessing. And great exits. And then I got to sit back and say, okay, what am I going to do? And then I heard that 100 million. I thought, well, I don't know what that means just yet. So I started coaching some of my software users in the recruiting space. And then I had a few other coaches come to me and say, hey, we want to coach with you, but we don't want to coach in the recruiting space. Can you generate leads for us? I was like, sure. And so I started generating leads for them, and they started making some money, and they were giving me a kickback, a percentage of what we were doing there. I said, guys, we need to create a company out of this because I'm kind of commingling funds and I don't like that. And they said, okay, well, what do we want to do? I said, well, what should we call it? And they were like, well, I love what we're doing. So another guy said, I love this too. I was like, well, I love coaching. So let's just call it I Love Coaching. And so that literally was it. So the feature moment turned into where we are today, because here's what the 100 million now stands for. I wrote a big, long white paper about our company, our community here. And the vision statement goes like this: I'm to empower coaches to change and serve 100 million people through our Real Coach method, right? And the Real Coach method is a system. And it's working, right? So now we're on 5 continents now with coaches, and they're serving and they're changing lives all day, every day, simply from a conversation I was having with myself and God on the beaches of Sullivan's Island.
So there's so much you just shared that my brain is kind of grabbing in different directions. But I'm going to pick the simplest one, because the simplest one is that, I was talking with Matt a while back about the name I Love Coaching, and I was kind of going like, yeah. The story behind, though, how you get to I Love Coaching, maybe sit there and go, and that's why it's the perfect name. That's why it is when you're sitting around with your people that you trust, the people that you've said, I need to surround myself with my crew. I need to bring the best people into my world. And all of you sit there going, but I love coaching. I love coaching. I love coaching. Well, that's what we're going to call it. Like, that's what we're going to roll with. So that's the simplest place there. But I also want to just take a moment on that time that you spent after your father's passing. My dad has gone through rounds of cancer. And when there was a time there where we were given a 1 month, there's about maybe 1 to 3 months that they were like, this is his time left on earth. We're like, now 7 years later, he's still here. And those moments of sitting bedside and having those conversations, I will say, is one of the more powerful moments I've ever had in my life. And good for you you said you set up a recorder, and I just want to tell you, man, like, what an incredible gift that you have that you can share with your important people in your life and future generations. Is that incredible moment if you choose to, and the lessons that take away from that are incredible. So good for you for owning it at that level.
It's funny. Thank you for saying that. What's funny is he wanted to be cremated. And so we were like, okay. And of course, we all had a family debate about that. And then he said, in typical my father fashion, he said, and here's the instructions for after I'm cremated. So we were a big water ski family as well. And he had a slalom course and all this stuff. And he says, I've never been able to get, what was it? It's either 24 off or 28. I can't remember what the actual number was now. He said, but what we're going to do, we had a private lake. And he said, what we're going to do is and we could all, when we were growing up, we would water ski on this lake, 1 boat at a time, slalom course, jump ramp, and trick ski area. And you got 6 passes, right? 6 passes. And each time you went through the pass, the rope shortened. And that was just how water skiing worked. And he said, here's what we're going to do. And so I recorded the whole thing, right? And he says, after pass 4, so coming back on pass 5, we're going to shorten the rope to a certain length. We're going to go at this speed. And when I get to the exit balls, that's when you're going to release my ashes. So I can finally say that I made it through that pass. And sure enough, we all did. And we had these t-shirts made, and it's like Dad finally made it to 24 off. And sure enough, we went 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the 5th one back, when we got through the exit buoys, we released his ashes. And it was super, super cool.
And Adam, 24 off, for those of you that are water skiers or aren't water skiers, like, there's a certain point that the rope doesn't reach the slalom buoys, and 24 is a tight rope. Like that is not, that's no joke.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
So back to recording that was recorded. When it was time to do it, I literally pushed play. We all sat on the boat, listened to exactly what he said, his instructions, and it was beautiful.
That's amazing, man.
Beautiful.
I mean, like, that whole experience, I mean, what were some of the, maybe one thing that you learned from your dad in those 4 months that you hadn't learned from him yet in your entire life with him as your coach?
gosh, man, maybe the word authenticity jumps right to my head. Right. So I'd always known my dad as the coach, the guy on this pool deck. When he passed and we had his funeral, I got to give the eulogy. Gosh, there were so many athletes that showed up, so many individuals of lives that he had impacted. And the stories that they shared of his coaching, of his drive for them, right? His attachment to their success was second to none. It was, some kids coming up saying, I didn't know that I was ever going to graduate high school, let alone go to college. And your dad helped me get a college scholarship. And now I'm this, that, and the other. So just sitting there, I mean, he grew up on a farm basically in Lafayette, Indiana. And so I got to ask him about that. I didn't know anything about his childhood, right? Nothing. What was his most embarrassing moment? What was his most proud moment? All those types of things. I mean, I was son, right? I'll just speak from my own experience. I didn't ask my dad a lot of questions. I just basically did what he told me to do. And so I got to be not an equal, but at that time I got to be on the same playing field as him and just be in conversation. So, but he showed up so authentically in his answers, right? The coach hat was off. Almost dad hat was off. And it was like we were doing our own podcast every day. And he just got to sit there and talk. And I just got to sit there and listen. I heard the authenticity. And what I loved about that was I had lost all focus of all my other businesses, right? Because I was so present with him. And the energy that he filled me up with positively versus, I mean, he's sitting there dying when I should have been maybe depressed was so empowering that it literally empowered me to step away from these cash flows, right? And so that was the biggest takeaway is his authenticity, which then drove me to do things that I didn't even think about doing beforehand. And now, had he not passed, had he not died, we wouldn't have I Love Coaching right now.
So this is the interesting thing about going through what you went through is that most people don't know when the important people around them are going to pass. And there's an odd gift that is given when you know somebody's expected passing time. Because you treat the time differently. You get that chance to actually say, okay, I know I only have so much time with you, which means I'm going to turn everything off in my world and you get my full undivided attention and I'm going to have these conversations and learn from you right now. And I want to encourage anybody who's out there who's listening that don't wait in your life with your important people for those special moments and those heartbreaking times that you get devastating news that somebody is going to pass and you change your entire world. If you can, take that time well before you ever find that out or you get that scary, last minute, so-and-so just passed. And you're like, I wish I would have had those conversations. Scary knowing somebody's going to pass, but what an absolute gift to know it so you can take the time to do that. And I love the authenticity and learning that and taking that away from him, Adam. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to then fast forward to I Love Coaching, it's really who you surround yourself with does matter. It really does. We've all heard many different ways. You're the sum of the books you read, the sum of the 5 people you hang with, though it really does matter. So when I Love Coaching became a thing, I created the system so that we're slowly getting away from this as we build out more systems in our sales cycle. I wanted to speak with everybody, right? I wanted to meet with everybody that was interested in our community. And I call it a community on purpose because I did not want to compete with other existing coaching companies, right? I wasn't looking to be a recruiter anymore. I was looking to be a kind of a gatherer of people that were already doing things that they were doing with the companies that they wanted to be with. And I just wanted to build a community of these people that I could help them grow their businesses through things that I've experienced. And so we called it real coaching. And some people say, and Adam, you're just being arrogant again. No, REAL is an acronym, right? It's relevant, experiential, authentic leaders is what REAL stands for. And if you're going to step into a coaching space, you need to be a real coach. You need to be relevant. You need to be experiential. You need to be authentic, and you need to be a leader. And so what we get to do now is I've created a whole blueprint on how to build, how to launch, how to scale, how to exit your coaching business. And we call it the REAL Blueprint. And I'll give it to any of your listeners. If any of your listeners right now want it, I'll give it to you for free. Just go to my Instagram, Adam R. Roach, and just type in blueprint and say life at 10 tenths or something like that, or Matt and Garrett, and I'll send it to you.
Love it.
I love it.
Absolutely love it.
Adam R. Roach. So make sure you get the 2 R's.
2 R's in there. That's right. 2 R's.
Instagram handle, get that middle initial in there. So let's talk about this authenticity for a second here, Adam, because that seems to be the big takeaway here. It's in the blueprint, right? It's the A in real. And so tell us a little bit about how you help people recognize and share their authenticity, because that is something that you are really great at. From the time that I've been able to kind of learn from you a bit and experience some of the stuff that you do, you really help coaches and people in general access that authentic being, which I think is so powerful, whether you're a coach, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a business owner, or whether you're an employee, because it can make a complete difference in not only your lifestyle, but also your income.
Yeah, big time. I don't think authenticity is something that's learned. I think authenticity is something that is created when you remove your imposter syndromes, right? When you remove your egos, when you remove this desire for wanting to look good and be right? It's the authenticity shows up. I put a post out the other day, Matt, I don't think you were on this call. I asked our coach, Dan Martell, I was like, hey, I got a question here. I said, I was at a shooting range. I did this whole tactical shooting thing. Oh, it was so epic. It was so fun a couple months ago down in Florida. And I caught myself. I was out there and it was beautiful 2 days. We had former SEALs, former CIA agents, former FBI people, agents, Marines, all there to coach us in this tactical approach to safety, protection, basically, right? So we got our pistols, we've got our ARs right here. We're shooting 50 calibers. I mean, this was legit, right? And I caught myself. Well, no, I didn't catch anything. I know this to be true. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I mean, I'm doing everything they're saying, and I can't hit a freaking target. And so I'm out there practicing by myself, and I'm doing everything they said. And this Marine comes over to me and he says, hey, how you doing? I was like, this sucks. And he's like, what? And I said, this is absolutely awful. I love competing. I love winning everything I do, and I can't hit a target. He said, let me watch it. He goes, what have we been practicing? I said, go slow. He's like, all right. So he's watching me, right? And he's like, everything is great. You're pulling the trigger. And then all of a sudden you're going fast on the trigger. And he said, you're going fast on the trigger. You can't make that bullet come out any faster by moving your hands faster. He said, I want you to go so slow that you can feel the hammer go back and the hammer hit the bullet. I want you to feel it all and then go as slow as you can and then release the trigger even slower. It's like, okay, great. And his question to me was, do you want help? I said, yes. So then I go back and I asked Dan Martell and I said, hey, I think I found something internally that I didn't realize was there, and I don't ask for help, right? I don't ask for help. And he said, okay, I know exactly how you feel. When I wrote my book, I wasn't asking for help either. And he said, if you don't ask for help, he said, you're being a selfish asshole. He said, if you don't ask for help, you are being so selfish, because if you've built a community, if you've built relationships with peers, if you've built family member relationships and they all want to help you and you don't ask for help, you're being selfish. And so that moment in time was something internally that I felt was part of an ego that I needed to let go or kill so that I could be even more authentic, right? And so I put a post out there and I said, hey, if you're not asking for help, because I was right there, I'm at a gun range, I can't hit a target. I didn't even ask for help. He had to come ask me if I wanted help. And I said, yes, you're being selfish. So Matt, to answer your question, if they want to step into a space of authenticity, right, they've got to learn what they need to kill about themselves to release part of that ego so they can become more authentic. That's what I believe.
That's a perfect answer. And
That is
perfect.
Just even listening to that story, I'm even thinking about, like, next time I go out to the range, make sure you're going slower than you even think you need to. It's like I didn't even ask for that help, but you're helping me right now.
When you pull the trigger, I didn't know that you could release it and there was like a little pop.
Oh yeah, there's a little
engagement that you don't have to pull as hard. I was like, I've never felt that in all the years that I've been shooting guns, because I've been going so fast with my trigger finger. Yeah.
Oh man,
it's for
I love that. And so for everybody listening too, and because this is very common, particularly with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, I experience this still, you could say even sometimes daily, is addressing that ego, addressing that whatever is there inside you that's making you want to present a certain thing, analyze that, understand that so that you can squash that to be able to either ask for help or access that authentic being that's inside of you. Because I agree with you, Adam. I don't think it can be taught. It doesn't need to be taught because it's already there. It just needs to be accessed. And to do that, we need to kill some of those other things. So
No, I was going to say the killing part is something too that is so powerful. Is if you look at the decisions you're making right now, every decision you are making at this moment in time when you're listening to this podcast is a conditioned response from yesterday. Everything that you're doing right now is a conditioned response from yesterday. So I had a coach come to me one time, coaching me personally, and I was sharing something. I don't remember what it was. And his question to me was, what part of yesterday? Oh, I know what it was. I was going through this cleanse, and they showed us the menu on this cleanse, and it was 16 days, and it said coffee. You have to drink coffee. I don't drink coffee. I've never drank coffee. Never even had a cup of coffee in my life. And I said, I don't drink coffee. What can I replace it with? And he said, okay, are you going to do the cleanse? I said, yes, I'm going to do the cleanse. Well, what can I replace coffee with? He said, I'm asking you one more time. Are you going to do the cleanse? I said, what? Aren't you understanding? I'm going to do the cleanse, but I need to replace coffee with something. He goes, if you're going to replace coffee, you're not going to do the cleanse. I was like, oh, okay. And he said, Adam, I need you to understand something. If you're going to do something to better yourself for tomorrow, your future self needs to protect your present self from your yesterday self. My yesterday self said, you don't drink coffee. That's true. My future self said, I want to be shredded. I want to be ripped. I want to be the best physical condition I can be. That was my future self. So if I had to take this cleanse and drink coffee, then my future self was saying, okay, surrender to it and let's go. My past self was saying, sorry, I'm going to kill you. That part of me is dead now. I don't drink coffee. I drink decaf coffee during that thing because you don't want me on caffeine. And it was great. 16 days. I had to decaf it and put ice on it and chug it like a beer. And that's how I drink my coffee. But to that point, Matt, you got to kill something from yesterday, mentally, pattern-wise, emotionally, to move yourself forward into a different role. Otherwise, it's going to be the same person every single day.
Well, and to piggyback back on what Matt was saying and what you're saying here, Adam, is that you said, going back to the statement of, do you want help? And I want everybody to listen to that out there, because that's a defining moment when you are open to hearing from others around you. And that ego that we hang on to that stops us, from asking for help, holds us back in this person we used to be. And the moment you open up that door, you're open to new suggestions, new ideas, new ways of looking at things. And I look at my track background and driving background. I was thinking about my last track day, and the gentleman I went and we drove cars with, we made a conscious decision going down to the track. We have an option of hiring a coach to be in the car with us, or just going out and having a great track day. And we made the conscious decision to say, let's not do a coach on this one. Let's just go out and let's just go drive and let's have fun. And I did much better than him in times. I'm going to say that out loud. Everybody, just Tim, if you're listening out there. But I'm sitting here listening, going like, wouldn't it have been awesome if I would have let go a little bit and said, let's put a coach in the car and turn that into an environment where I could have said, what could I be doing different here? And can you help me reduce a little bit more time? Like, you just got to, there's so much we can learn about us and so much growth we have, but you've got to be willing to let the ego go and ask. I love it.
I'll give you one last example there of hiring a coach. And I believe you should have a coach for everything. I've been divorced and now remarried, and marriage for the second time, got engaged. And I thought, oh shit, here we go. I've already screwed this up once. I don't want to screw it up again. What do I need to do? Right? The first one cost me way too much money. I can't afford it the second time. And so I thought, I'm going to hire a relationship coach, not a counselor, a relationship coach. And I did it as a surprise for my wife, that I eventually told her, I said, hey, I hired a coach to make me a better husband. And we had about 3 months together, Dr. Kelly Flanagan and I, and then we brought Dana into the mix. And oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much I grew as a man, there was so much that I was taught in and about relationships simply because I hired a coach. Man, I can speak from being a man. I didn't know what the hell I was doing in a relationship world. I was winging it until I hired a coach, right? And I believe that we wing everything until we hire a coach to make us better.
I love it.
I love that, Adam.
I love it.
I appreciate you for being a role model of what you also do and what you put out there by, not only being a great coach, but being a great coaching client of many, many, many great coaches, because you certainly eat your own cooking, which is incredible. And I acknowledge you for that and really appreciate you sharing story today, Garrett.
Well, I was going to say, Adam, in respect for your time, and I know that we do have a hard stop here, but I want to say thank you so much for everything you shared. You talked about the real coach model that you have, and I know a lot of people that might have listened to that are saying, "Oh, well, I'm not a coach, or I don't have a coaching program. I'm out looking at building a coaching program." And I want to encourage everybody that I know this model, and if you have children, if you have anybody in your life that looks up to you, you are a coach. You do help people through this every single day. And if there's any models or tools or tricks you can have to help you better influence others around you and help them grow, I would reach out to Adam here, and you can just use Life at 10 Tenths. That'll probably be as clear as it could possibly be.
And Adam, you have an event coming up too.
I do.
Which would be a great entry point for people to start experiencing I Love Coaching.
Yeah. So this is a fun event for all. So you don't have to be a coach to come to this event. This is an event that I created back in 2020. So this will be our 5th year doing it. And I realized in the beginning in 2020, with my clients that I was personally coaching, at the end of every year, I've always been taught to run a business planning clinic, right? Prepare for next year. And I was looking at my clients and I thought, you know what? You guys need more than a business planning clinic. Your world sucks right now. So we need a whole life planning, right? Your health is suffering, your relationships are suffering, your wealth is suffering. We need a whole life planning summit. And so the very first one we did, it was just maybe about 20 people there. And I did it in a restaurant in Mount Pleasant that was falling into Shim Creek. And it was a great experience. Now, fast forward, you can go to summit.ilovecoachingco.com. We will be downtown at the Gilliard. This is our 5th year doing this. We'll probably exceed 300 people in attendance. Last year, we represented 28 states at this event, and it's a whole life business planning event. So we focus on health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, giving, and leadership. John Maxwell is our keynote speaker again for the 2nd time. Last year we had, and they're going to come back this year, Make-A-Wish as our recipient of giving. Last year we raised enough money to give 5 wishes to kids, which was so stinking powerful. We'll have one of my pastors there. And a whole slew. So there's 11 different speakers over 2 days helping you plan for your whole life in 2025. So if they go to summit.ilovecoachingco.com, I think it's over, but you guys can still have this. Early Bird 24 will give you $300 off of your ticket. And I highly recommend, I think there's probably only about 4 or 5 left, doing the Elite VIP, because what that'll do is that'll give you access to me and my wife. You get to come over to our house for dinner. You'll get to meet every single speaker. There's only 20 of these tickets. Actually, I don't think there's that many left. And you'll get to have lunch with John Maxwell on the 2nd day.
That's pretty incredible to have access to John Maxwell, even to be in the audience of an event of this size, which is going to be bigger than last year, but still intimate compared to some of the venues that John Maxwell speaks at, who is the best leadership coach there is, at least around right now. That's for sure. So what an awesome thing. It's going to be incredible. Adam.
Man, I know you'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's in my I better be there, right?
You better be there.
It's right here. It's going to be awesome. So Adam, dude, thanks so much, man, for sharing your story, being here and giving us a few extra minutes of your time this morning. This is incredible. Really appreciate you sharing, man.
Likewise. Matt, Garrett, appreciate your time. Thank you both.
Yeah, appreciate you tons. LV, just as we wrap this up, thank you so much for listening today. If you want to learn more about our coaching program and what we do on our side, come check out lifeat10tenths.com. You can also learn about our 11 Circle, which is our coaching program. And we have an amazing group of people in there, live coaching. We do all kinds of special events internally. We'd love to have you in there. So come check that out. And Matt, thank you. Adam, thank you. And appreciate all your energy, sir.
Likewise. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.